Alright, now we should be live. Hopefully the audio should be good enough, from what I can tell. I have a slight headache. I'm thinking about taking an aspirin. Let's see if it will help. So I'm gonna open up the manual here. I'm gonna look through it. I sort of kind of want it on my iPad, but then you guys can't see it, so don't make it for shit content. So we're gonna go through it here, and if I did a brief report in PDF format with the results and short discussions for each task. Also hand in your MATLAB code. You may ask for help and cooperate in the elaboration, but hand-in should be done individually. You're not allowed to copy material from another person's report. Yes. I don't know anyone who does this course, so I don't have anyone to ask in particular, but I'm sure it will be fine. This level code using the system identification toolbox in MATLAB. Most of the code has been given to you, and you only need to make minor edits. Right, so this shouldn't take redonka hours, at least not in terms of coding. Right, that's a thing about university studies in a lot of ways. On this level, it's like a lot of the time we are coding very little. Right, and like sure there are like specific coding classes that like I haven't taken, and with the with the courses like there isn't enough space for me to take any like a lot of pure coding courses. Right, I took a database course, and I think that that was from advice from some course mates. One said that the course was very nice, which I agree that it was. It was very interesting, and I am happy that I took it, because it's one of those things that like you probably ought to go a course in databases. You're very likely going to handle a fucking SQL database at some point, right? So I'm happy that I did that course. Another course in electric vehicles, that was just purely for my own entertainment. It was a nice course. I'm happy that I took it in some sense. It won't be particularly helpful for my for my future studies, or for my future in general. Because I'm gonna work for literally Tesla, right? Which I don't have the need to do that. It would be kind of cool, maybe, but yeah. It was more so an interest, and I'm happy that I took it. Like, in the way that, like, you should take some amount of courses just for the breadth of it, right? That's sort of my opinion. Because you are here for 5 years, and you can either use the extra points given to you within our system to go wide or go even deeper, right? And I wasn't particularly interested in going even deeper. I wasn't entirely sure what I would have even gone deeper in some sense. So I think I've done fine with my course selection. That was maybe one course which I could have reconsidered. Another course that like potentially could be seen as a problem is the I have a course in relativity, general relativity, which I took during a summer because I just wanted to study a little more, or I was studying some other courses. One of them was like a programming course. It was like, you should probably do this one, people said, and I did. Alongside, I did 2 other ones, which was really fun. I enjoyed those. They were good. Let's continue. In the first part of this lab, you will estimate the parameters of a quadcopter using open loop experiment. In the second part, you will be used the estimated parameters to close the loop and study the quadcopter subject to an external disturbance. By estimating the model with this disturbance, we will attempt to synthesize a controller that handles it better than what the controller without the model. Right. So we're designing a controller. Awesome. The focus of this lab will be on the estimation, and you can finish it without doing any controller synthesize yourself. However, you're more than welcome to see if you can improve the controller design. Interesting. I would love to do that. I hope to have extra time over to do that. Right now, I am fucked. Not necessarily super duper much in this course, but more so in terms of the other course. I am digging my own grave, which isn't great. The simulation will be carried out in Simulink. Yeah, you do not need to inspect the Simulink models unless you want to. You can access the outputs from the Simulink model from the out variable in MATLAB. Yeah. So we don't need to so many things have been abstracted away from us to just focus on the important part of this course, which is, how should you say this? It is nice that they do that, and it's probably necessary for the time commitment that they're expecting of us. But man, I just want a fucking course where the thing you do is the whole thing, right? Like you have a blank fucking page, create something, right? That's not entirely what you will do as an engineer. You will probably be put into an existing system, somewhat similar to this in reality when I'm like thinking about it. But at the same time, some amount of the time you will probably be just given a problem, go and find a solution, right? I remember listening to a YouTube video like probably 15 years ago or something at this point. Maybe not 15. Something like 12 probably. About a guy who was talking to another guy. I think it might have been Drifter talking to a classmate. Regardless. Where he was given a task. He was given a couple of servo motors, a camera, and Lego blocks, and was told, sort these Lego blocks based on color, or something like that. Sort these boxes based on color, right? And he knew nothing about servo motors, he knew nothing about computer vision, he knew nothing about Legos, you know, at least in theory. Go and figure it out. And that was the best, most applicable engineering course he took during this entire tenure as a student. Do you say tenure as a student? I don't know. Regardless, right? And that's something that I feel can be missing. And that's something you need to complement in your own fucking life in that case, right? But not to sound like a fucking loser, it's sometimes hard without the structure of the school to really on your own do that sometimes, which is what it is. What it is. Yeah, it's from Meltlam 2020A, and there are some known issues. If you want any problems, recommend upgrading. Yeah, I have literally 2024 version B, so everything should be super fine. To measure the position of a quadcopter, you need 3 variables, x, y, and z, in meters. To describe its position in space, 3 variables, theta, gamma, and some other guy. Let me. What are these Greek symbols called? Oh yeah, it's phi, theta, and psi. Yeah, phi, theta, and psi in radians to describe its orientation in space. In this lab, we will use the Thiat-Bryan angles to describe the orientation of the quadcopter. You also need to describe the angular speed of the 4 rotors. With omega 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the different motors. Thiat-Bryan angles. The 3 angles, theta, phi, and phi, theta, and psi. Yeah. Describe rotation around x, y, and z axis respectively. Phi is the... I am saying... Yeah. I know the fucking names of it. Phi, theta, and psi. Phi, theta, and psi. Did you say psi in English? I don't know. I think you probably said psi. The psi på svenska. It's around the x-axis, often called the pitch. Y is the rotation of the y-axis, often called the roll. Finally, phi, psi is the rotation around the z-axis, often called the yaw. Breaking the yaw. Later in this lab, we'll try to make the quadcopter move in the y direction. Note that this requires a negative rotation about the x-axis. So we're going to move in the y direction, whichever way you decide to name the variables. Coordinate frames. To describe the dynamics of the quadcopter, it is often useful to introduce a coordinate frame for the quadcopter. X hat, y hat, z hat. See figure 1 for an illustration. The mapping between these coordinate frames and the global coordinate frame is then described by the trait Bryan angles. We will, throughout this lab, only use small angles, which allows us to use only the global coordinate frames. Only the global coordinate frames, okay. So we don't need to use x hat, y hat, and z hat. Interesting. From blade element theory, each rotor I is with rotor speed phi I generates a force in the positive z direction. Okay, so we how should I mean, we should look at the fucking picture wherever it is. Should be a picture somewhere. Figure 2. Where's figure 1? Am I blind? Maybe. Oh, up here. Right. Yeah, Z is up. X is to the side. And Y is out from the paper. Like this. Well, it's not a right-hand system. If my fingers are in... Yeah, it's not a right-hand system. Interesting. I mean, it doesn't need to be, right? But I would have expected it to be. Alright, let's go back to here. I don't know if I actually need to read through all of this in this amount of detail, but I will do it anyway. It also generates a torque. So torque, B times... So Bi times Im, however, the effect of the acceleration term, yeah, there's a little tiny dot up there which I almost missed, is typically negligible, and we ignore it in this lab. Okay. Importance to note. The system is symmetric in the XY plane. However, each motor is L meters from the center of gravity. We assume that all rotors have the same characteristics. That's a reasonable assumption to make. It would be very annoying if that wasn't the case, because having symmetry in the plane, in the XY plane, means that we can simplify things, at least in theory. We will use the plus configuration, which means that the x, y, and x hat and y hat is chosen as in figure 1. The resulting thrust force T and torque, not kappa, kappa is a fucking K, tau. This is tau. We just type this guy in. Symbol is the Greek letter tau, yeah. In the body coordinate system. So our thrust force is K times the sum of each motor's angular speed squared. It's the angular speed squared for each of those motors. And then we have the torque in each direction is described in this way. If we just look at them, does this seem to make sense? What is this L term? The inertia in the body, is this an L? I'm not super familiar with these types of models, but this is how it's described, which is fine. I'm sure all this is fucking in code, but I think just reading through it is not a bad strategy. You know, usually I'll just jump into things, right? But I'm trying to just read through it all first. The inertia in the body coordinate system is given by this nice diagonal little thing. which would make sense because the inertia is in each direction. To simplify the modeling, we assume that only one of the three angles is non-zero, attempted to correlate in one singular positional dimension. Only one of the three angles is non-zero and attempt to control it in one single positional dimension. Right, because in reality, there's going to be some wobbling and some bullshit, and more than one will be non-zero at any given time. And that needs to be handled then, and that's a more complicated model. Estimating K. Is it K or is it kappa? I think it's a K. We can ask. Is this kappa? No, that is a kappa. Yeah, it's just K. Yeah, it was just a K, it wasn't a kappa. And then I did read it right. The mass of the quadrocopter can easily be measured by weighing it. Nice! Awesome! Good job! If all the rotors have the same rotor speed, torque on the quadrocopter will be 0. If all of the rotors have the same rotor speed, the torque on the quadrocopter will be 0. Does this make sense to me? It probably should. So all, because torque is that it starts to spin, right? Yeah, the moment. If you apply force on an axle, you'll generate torque. And yeah, here we are not applying force. We're applying equal force in all things, so they all cancel out. The dynamics of the quadrocopter can be simplified significantly. Yeah, exactly. If we can make these assumptions, then the model will be way easier. And model as a double integrator using Newton's second law. Yeah, mass times acceleration equals force. We have these things from up top somewhere. So this is the yeah, because all of these guys are the same, so that's why the 4 comes from here. This is the force, and the torque here. All of these guys are equal, so they are all 0. This makes sense now. Just again, I'm just looking through it all very, very thoroughly here. Right, so this generates an up force, which what we were expecting it to do. I have a hard time speaking. So on for each motor times the K, and then times the angular speed. Again, remember this is just the angular speed squared times 4 times this K equals mg. This is the mass and the gravitational constant. Throughout this lab, we will assume we have access to the acceleration and the position of the quadrocopter. Knowing the position typically requires a camera system, right? But we will assume that we have put that on the thing. Good. We have a lot of variables at our disposal. By letting u equals letting u, which is u? Where is u? All right, it's our input. Our input is this 4 times the rotor speed squared. We can rewrite the expression as z squared plus g. What the fuck is this variable called? I never remember this guy's fucking name. I recognize. I mean, he is a symbol. Let's ask. What is this guy called? Oh, it's zeta. Right, it's zeta. We can calculate zeta by measuring the acceleration in z direction. So it's the yeah, we know the gravitational constant. We now want to identify the process k divided by m equals u. This gives an estimate on the form KPU, from which we can find our estimate K as K estimate KPM. Yeah. Open the file, identify KM, and construct a suitable input trajectory that can be used to verify one. We don't. Yeah, this one, or is it this one here? By comparing the three models, this guy's an estimate K for each case of Fy, Ki for the different KIs. Compared to the true value K, which can be found in MATLAB Workspace. Hints: you can run a segment of the code at a time by selecting it and pressing Ctrl Enter, depending on your OS. So Ctrl Enter first. The parts that you're supposed to write yourself has been indicated by to-do comments. Nice. Okay. So it should be very boxed in what we're supposed to do. Nice. I'm going to continue reading through this whole thing. And I need aspirin. Just give me 1 second to chat. Today, maybe more so think that it's a viewing angle issue, but I feel it a little bit in my neck. I'm going to continue going through the document, maybe do like the first 1 or 2 if possible, or at the very least. Yeah, I am starting to feel pretty tired. I'm going to read through the whole thing. Chat, I am just over here. Don't worry. I'm getting my stuff. We're going to continue going for about an hour. And I'm probably going to go to the gym. Then I'm going to eat some food. And then I'm going to take the rest of the evening off. Because I am pretty tired. I have slept way too few hours. Quite frankly. There is the thing. I'm going to go and put it in my mouth now. Stay motherfucking hydrated, chat. Stay motherfucking hydrated. I'm sorry for the very squeaky bar stool I'm sitting on. Okay, let's continue. Estimating I3 and B. So I'm a little... I just need to remember, what was the I again here? It was, in this case, the inertia, right? So the inertia in the Z direction. So if we just inertia, right? So when you start moving an object, if it's an object with a very big mass, it will be harder to move. Is basically what inertia means. By setting all the rotor speeds to each other, the resulting torque profile will be such that there is only a torque around the y-axis. Yeah. The equation of motion for the yaw angle, phi, so the angle in Z, right? Fairly certain. Yaw. See up here, just making sure that Z-axis, yes, exactly. That is what we were expecting. Turn that off because whatever is happening here is fucking with my eyes. The yaw angle phi is given by the torque in that direction times the inertia in that direction times or the torque in that direction equals the inertia in that direction times the can I call it the acceleration of the angle? Is there such, can you call this an angular acceleration? Is this like, maybe there is a better word for it than that? I don't know. Where the torque is given by this formula here, which is the rotor speed of the front two motors, I would assume. They aren't labeled, but yes, probably in the front two motors. In two motors at the very least. Like, the names of them is not irrelevant. Well, the problem is symmetric in the XY plane. So we choose a direction. That's the important part. The naming doesn't really matter. With a gyro, oh, I would love some fucking gyros right now, and I want fucking kebab, man. Holy fuck, that would be amazing. Regardless, we can measure the yaw rate, right? Let the input be the rotor speed of those two. Well, plus minus. So this is 0. And then dynamics of y are given by, or I guess that these aren't actually, because up here we're setting them to the same thing, but if we want to change, because here we're, right, because this, if these are the same, we say that they are. Oh wait, so 1 and 3 is the same and 2 and 4 is the same. Okay. So here we're not putting all of them at the same, which we did up here somewhere. I have probably never read through a document this thoroughly before in my life. I'm not gonna lie, bros. Yeah, so we're putting 1 and 3 equal to each other and 2 and 4 equal to each other. So it's 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. So these guys are the same, so you go, and then these guys are the same, so you go, but you don't put all of them to the same. That the yaw angle is given by this here, so the rate of change in there is the torque, and that. Will this thing spin? It's like my, because we are changing this angle, which is in this direction. So yes, it will spin. This guy and this guy are the same speed. This guy and this guy are the same speed. They are not the same speed as those guys. So it will spin in this direction. In the Z direction. It will spin in the Z direction. That is what we're expecting to happen. This makes sense to my brain. It's given by this formula, which is just an integrator. It's just an integrator. Yeah, you can integrate this guy. Open the file, identify B, and construct an input trajectory for the angular speed, or the rotor speed, so that the quadrocopter has constant Z position and changes yaw angle. Construct an input so that the Z position is constant, so we're not moving up, we're just spinning, and change the yaw angle. The script switches between two different inputs where angular speed 1 and angular speed 2 switches values. The number of switches depends on the segment's parameters. Okay. Let them be equal to each other by a constant. For a given value of C, find the value of rotor speed 1 so that the quadrocopter hovers. Cool. Right. So that's why it's like spinning. Interesting. Do they normally do that? The fucking quadrocopters I've seen in real life don't tend to spin around to hover, do they? Maybe they fucking do. Maybe I'm retarded. Maybe we just want it to spin for whatever reason. And choose a suitable value of C and the number of segments so that the yaw angle stays in the interval minus pi to pi. Why can this exercise not be used to find both B and I3? Assume that I3 has been estimated by some other method. Estimate B by choosing a suitable process model. Okay. Estimating I1 and I2. Due to the symmetry of the quadrocopter, it holds that I1 and I2 is equal. It is enough to find one of them. Yes. I agree with this. This would make sense because we are modeling the quadrocopter as being symmetrical. The system equation for motion for the phi angle is given by that equation. That makes sense to me. Where the small angles, where for small angles, the torque T phi is given by KL minus the rotor speed in number 2 plus the rotor speed of number 4 squared. So if they are equal to each other, they take each other out, which would make sense because so these two motors here, if they have the same speed, you won't have any torque because you won't have any spin in that direction. It's also important that the angle stays quite small so that the quadrocopter is stable. Yes, this thing will fucking fall over easily. It's not stable. These guys are equal to each other. 1 and 3 is equal to each other, and minus plus is 0. Wait, can my brain understand what that means? So the rotor speeds of 1 and 3, which is probably next to each other, this rotor speed for these guys, in some sense, I mean, you can just rotate him if you know the relative. So sure. If those two guys are the same and those guys there will only be torque on this guy, which is this guy, the pitch. Yeah, so it's around X. So yeah, and you want that to be small. I think this makes sense in my brain. Let our input be the rotor speed of those two guys squared, and then phi dot, remember there's a dot up here, will satisfy this equation, which again is just an integrator. Yeah, so it's similar to the one before. Open the file, identify I1 and design the input sequence to estimate I1. Start by using such that if all phi I equals omega, this is an omega I equals omega h, then the quadrocopter hovers. Let those two be equal to each other and let them be equal to h, and then put those guys here. Then it must hold that this thing here, this equation here. I am getting tired, yes. I maybe shouldn't have a lie down because the risk of me not ever achieving anything else in the day is quite high. But we'll see. For the quadrocopter, however, for any c, for any given c, find c2. So divide this guy here with this guy here. Then choose a suitable c and number of switches. Finally, construct a suitable ID data object and choose a suitable model structure. You can look at the code for the previous task if you need inspiration. Yeah, because this task here is somewhat similar to what we're doing here, in that this equation holds and things. So we should be able to do that. Because here we're just tilting in a different direction, which, yeah, with like small changes and stuff, which is cool. Alright, there is not too much left. Closing the loop. With the parameter estimated, it is now easy to derive controllers to control the quadrocopter. To keep it simple, we will only control the quadrocopter in 2 dimensions. With the parameter estimated, it is now easy to derive controls to control the quadrocopter. Right, because we have all the parameters for all the things. We can now calculate any change in the other things that we want based on the parameters that we have found. That is really fucking cool. To keep it simple, we will only control the quadrocopter in 2 dimensions. Thus, we only need to consider one rotation. We only need to consider one rotation in order to move in 2 directions. That doesn't make sense to my brain, because if I can only tilt, I mean, because that's one direction. Left and right is one direction, right? Because it's just minus the other, right? That's still the same direction. Or is that not considered 2 directions? I mean, it's 1 dimension at the very least. Sure, it might be, it's 2 directions, but it's 1 dimension. And we're moving in 2 dimensions. Then we quite clearly need to consider 2 rotations to move in 2 directions. Maybe I'm stupid. Okay, well, we know that that's the case. Maybe I am reading something wrong here. Very likely. In this case, we start by designing one controller for the height Z of the quadrocopter and one controller for the Y position. So we have 2 controllers. Because we're going to do 2 dimensions. Yeah, we only need to send one rotation for each direction, so to speak. Yeah, I think I am correct. Or like the wording of that is maybe weird. Regardless, it doesn't fucking matter. For the C controller, we have the dynamics. Z squared equals mg minus mg plus cosinus of phi, which is the pitch angle, which is the rotation around the y-axis. So this guy, so to speak, if x is over here and z is over here. Don't know if, wait, let me check the camera. So z, this looks inappropriate, y and x. Yeah, sure, that totally doesn't look strange. Times t, this equals t minus mg. What is t? Have we seen this t variable before? For small angles of phi. So small changes in this direction, right? So we'll tilt the drone over here or over here. And then in this direction up here, we're spinning him like this. Right, so if we do that, we can go, yeah, because then he can move in this plane, so to speak. He can't move up, probably, seemingly. Not if we're going to change the angles. We always need to increase the rotor speed of all of them, which we can do. Moving him up straight is not hard in that sense. I think my brain is doing its best, chat. We design a controller that gives a thrust reference, delta T. So big T is our thrust. That's probably defined up here somewhere. Where's big T? Except on Twitch. Haha, funny. That wasn't. Thrust reference T. Yeah. We have thrust in Y. In Z. Go back here. So the thrust minus mg. Yeah. We knew that already. Same equation. Seemingly. Thrust which is the thrust relative to the thrust that keeps the quadrocopter hovering. This is your controller structure in figure 2. In figure 2, here. PYD, which gives us delta T, compared to mg, gives us T, into that equation. And this guy, then here is the feedback loop here. God, I wanna relearn the fucking control theory shit that I learned in like 4 years ago, right? So I am a little rusty. Not gonna lie, I should have done the other course, but it's just schedules were a nightmare. So it just wasn't possible. It is what it is. We started by controlling the Y position using a cascaded controller structure where an outer PID controller takes the position error and gives us an angle reference. Okay, the inner controller is a PD controller which takes the angle and gives a torque reference. See figure 3 for an illustration. The wind force presented in the figure will be considered in the next section. For a description on how to map the wanted thrust coordinates, see the appendix. Okay. Open a file, test PID, and evaluate it to make sure that the controller works. The goal is to move 0.1 meter in the Y direction while maintaining the SID level. You can edit the file, design PID, try your own design if you want to. Note the simulation systems without wind disturbances. And then we have wind disturbance and stuff. I'm going to read through it all. Then I might can't say if I want to eat food. I'm particularly hungry. Like I want to go to the gym, but I'm also like, if I'm like genuinely feeling a little sick, I think it's just a fucking headache from like my neck pain. So in that case, I can still go to the fucking gym, right? But we'll see. How long have I been just reading this document? 41 minutes! Ain't no fucking way that's taking so long. Then I understand why my my limited brain capacity is being said. We now consider the case where there's a wind acting on the quadrocopter, resulting in a force in the Y direction, as described in figure 3. The goal is to make the quadrocopter stay in origin, right? So we're blowing on it. We measure the acceleration y dot dot, which satisfies this equation because it's a force and we have a mass, where the total force is given by force equals omega. What is that's not an omega. That's what is this called? Isn't this? It's not omega. That's just W. It's not, yeah. It's the wind force, right? It's W. Estimate an ARMA model for the wind disturbances using the accelerometer to directly calculate the wind force. Most of the code you need to be found in identify wind.m. Try different values for the dissemination factor R and enter the correct model structure for the ARMA estimation. Compare results with the true denominator, which can be found in wind.dynmu. Also use the code supplied for plotting the Bode diagram. For the controller design in the next step, it is only necessary that the estimation of the denominator is good. At the end of the script, you can plot the position of the quadrocopter. Okay, cool. We will now design an LQC controller and a Kalman filter with a noise model to better handle the disturbances. I wanted to learn about Kalman filters, they're really cool. It is okay if you have never heard about these things before. All you have to do is insert your estimation of the disturbance model and inspect the results. I have heard the name Kalman filter. LQG. I don't know if this says anything to my brain or not. It sort of rings a very faint bell. Linear quadratic Gaussian. Right. Then I have probably heard that term before, yes. Kalman filter I've heard because it's the filter you put on a thing you do it in like computer vision, I know. It's in the effektivt rekursivt filter eller vet som utför en mängd inkompetenta bussar. Yeah, because noisy data. Explain Kalman filter in a sentence, right? Kalman filter is a recursive environment that optimally fuses noise sensor data and the system models to estimate unknown variables, improving prediction over time. Yeah. Can now model the dynamics of the position, y position included it. We can now model the dynamics of the y position. I shouldn't be mumbling. I want to speak more clearly into the microphone and enunciate my words properly and move my fucking mouth, right? I'm trying to mumble less as I'm doing this. That's one of the many goals I have for doing these streams, is to make sure that I enunciate my words properly, including the external disturbances as follows. Introduce the states theta, no, not theta, zeta. Zeta is probably how I say it in English. Where they follow this equation. Zeta 1 equals the time derivative of phi, so the angle in, so how the angle of the y direction changes over time, its time derivative. And similar, oh wait, no, so in zeta 2 you just have the angle, in zeta 3 you have the y dot, so the changing in, so the speed of change in y, and then y. Theta 5 and 6 are states for describing the external disturbances. The dynamics for theta is given by a bunch of equations, which I'm not going to read through. They look sensible enough to my brain, probably. Just very quickly scanning them over, you know, not exactly taking them all in. Because right now my brain is a little cooked. Insert your values for disturbances, parameters W0 and epsilon into design here. Right, because these are values which we have gotten from above. Run the controller synthesis and run the simulation to verify that the controller improves the performance. Note that the figure axis might be different when you only use PID controllers. The figure axis might be okay. That will probably make sense to me when I actually look at things. We consider the problems to find phi I given reference delta t and the torque. We start by finding the phi t so that these things, my eyes are just glossing over things at this point. Right, so we have read through the whole thing. I think I'm gonna open, right, like I'm right now. I'm just going to open all the things and just look at them. That's the next step as far as I'm concerned. Now I've deeply read through everything. My brain is going to need a little bit of time to like munch on all the data and like understand what is happening. Download this thing. I don't know if it's being downloaded. Unclear. Now it definitely is. Open this thing up. Can we put this just in MATLAB like this? Is this a thing we can do? Yes. We need to unzip it. Can we unzip it from here? I don't want to create a zip file. I want to do the opposite. Extract. Cool. Where's this located? In Documents, MATLAB. This is a fucking mess. Let's delete this version. We definitely don't need both. Oh wait, this guy is not in your MATLAB path. Double click to make it in a current folder, or select Add to Path from its context menu. Add to path. Add selected folder. And it's this guy is also good. Cool. I'm thinking of like just putting all of these things in its own place. Just create a folder and name it like old exercises. Sure, that's a fine enough name for it. This should also be in there. Go to here now. CLC, right? Clear all. Should have done it in the opposite order. But yeah, okay, cool. Let's close this thing. Close this thing for now. Close this thing for now. Close this thing. Oh, I have a bunch of those guys up. I should have. I do want to do those, and I might come back to do them. Right, if I'm feeling really stuck. I'm gonna open up this thing again. I'm just gonna see what's the name of the first thing to do. Identify K is the first thing we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna open up identify K, and then our to do here is here are things we should do. So data 1, data 3, system 1, system 3, K estimate. So the only things that we're supposed to do. You will need to change ones to something better. Hint linspace. Single values. So right now it's ones. Like, okay, wait. Let me just step through some things here. We have a bunch of variables here, which are gathered from the model. So noise power, right? Okay, yeah. The amount of noise in the thing. It's like, the fuck does noise power mean for a second? Like, we ain't dealing with acoustics, and then my brain's like, oh right, now I understand what the fuck this means. Yeah, okay. So we have a bunch of variables here. I know what some of them are, definitely. But it'll be fine. So we're gonna run one more. So that's these guys. Omega impact. Let me like. Is this bad? What's these things here? Just writing out those two variables. So if we write out omega in. Just want to. Yes, that's what I meant. Big O. Big O. Right. So omega 1001 doubles omega in dot time. Right to the time omega in dot time. Right, yeah, so we're running it for 10 seconds, and we're discretely taking time steps. It's 0.009. This makes sense. This makes sense in my brain. Yeah. And then big omega in, oh Lord, omega in dot signals is a struct which looks like that, which is for each time variable the 4 omegas, which is the speed of dot signals dot values, just a bunch of ones, right? And they wanted this to be changed because in the thing it said that we were gonna was ones, which one? I'm gonna need to read through everything in some sense, right? Like change this on something. Hint space. Sure. One more here. Starting thing. I'm just trying to just like get a... So right now it is simulating stuff. Right now I haven't changed the omega ins. So right now they're always 1. So let's see. So that means that the rotor speed is always 1, as far as I understand. So they always spin at the same speed. I think that's what's happening. Things are happening in here, which is interesting. It doesn't seem to be running in here. Oh, there we go. Now it's done. Omega T acceleration. ATT, 8 rate. What is ATT? Bunch of time series. Okay, and now we run this thing. Yeah, so we are crashing by right, because it seems like we are crashing. I am a little curious. If I take this times 10, will it go up? No. Where's figure 1? This looks identical. Interesting. Not necessarily what I was expecting. Maybe I'm thinking about something wrong. What these things are exactly. But yeah, I am a little cooked in the brain at the moment. I'm gonna need to read through this again to just sort of get what is going on. Maybe ask some ChatGPT questions to get a feel for what's going on here, and such. And then eat some food, go to the gym, come back in a while, hopefully. I might, yeah, because if I'm not playing, which I don't know if I am yet, we'll sort of see about it. I'm going to, what should I say? I'm going to come back. I hope. That's the ambition. If I can feel a little better about stuff, then we're gonna attempt number 1, I think, or at least like just try to build a little bit of more understanding, and then we'll see where we go from there, because I do want to start it this weekend. That would be awesome. I don't need to be done on like Saturday, but I would want to at the very least have like a time plan for the rest of the week, because I want to be done by Wednesday, right? And Monday will be lectures and such, right? Then I have a whole Tuesday and things, and then I will be done with the code by Wednesday, and then I have Thursday and Friday to write the report, which will be enough time, which is good. So that's the plan. Let's try to execute. But I will be back in a few hours. Then I'm gonna go pee. I'm gonna see how I'm feeling. If I feel like I can go to the gym, I think I will be able to. The headache medicine has started to work. I know that thing says that you shouldn't gym once you've taken it, probably. So that's something to consider. I'm gonna eat food, and then we'll sort of see. But I will probably be back in a while, so we can start going. So that's the plan. Yeah, I'll see you guys sooner.